Spring training, this is no Sunday stroll.
Obsessed with touring, one-man story.
And park patrollers get rolling.
Coming up on Cycle.
There's a spring tradition in Stanley Park. It goes back a couple of decades.
It's a group ride, which surely isn't for slowpokes like us.
Hey, who you calling slow?
You.
Today it's called the Tuesday Night Jam in the Park. Pretty much we just get together with a bunch of guys and do the half laps of the park. Try to get some training in.
The race has a long-standing tradition in the park. Many of Canada's top cyclists in both road and off-road racing have used the Tuesday Night Jam as a way to train for the coming race season. Cyclists like Alison Sider or Bruce Spicer.
I was coming down here in 1980. So I think it was going on before that, but it's probably around the late 70s. I think guys like Ron Heyman and Tom Morris used to come down, and it just evolved from there. Yeah. Probably some of the group that raced out of Varsity Cycles up on West 10. Yeah. A little racing club out of there. That's how I got started.
The type of riding one experiences in a pack is unique, and the only place to develop pack skills is on the road with other cyclists.
There's all kinds of pack skills, tactical skills, and just bringing yourself up to a level of confidence where you feel comfortable riding with a large group of people.
It brings your speed up more than anything, especially when you're training. If you go by yourself, you always kind of stay at the same pace. Instead, when you're with a bunch of guys, the speed's a bit higher because you're changing the duty at the front, the guy who breaks the wind. Kind of like the ducks when they fly south.
The race is unofficial, and so far, major conflicts with other users have been avoided.
We did get stopped last year by the police, telling us to obey the stop signs. And that was the last ride of last year, so there wasn't too much of an impact because nobody came, the next weekend anyways.
Stanley Park is used more out of necessity than a desire for pretty scenery.
There's no other place other than say in the interior in industrial parks after hours, but it's too far to get to. So, and there's really no facility that caters to it. So, we just have to make do with the park.
By the way, the Stanley Park Jam, it only runs from January through till May. Alan, have you ever done that type of pack riding before?
Well, I have, but not in that particular race, Charmaine. It's more difficult than you can imagine. Everyone is dependent on each other's skills. You've got to be very careful.
Most of us don't think about whether our bike is properly set up for our bodies and riding style. That is, unless our knees, back, or shoulders start to hurt. Peggy Hill thinks about it all the time. She's a former professional racer. Now she helps cyclists make sure they fit their bikes perfectly, and she makes house calls. With a few simple adjustments, Peg says she can prevent many cycling injuries.
Could you imagine running all crouched if you're too low? So if your seat's too low, you're not going to get the extension, the power that you want for your cycling. Likewise, if it's too high, you'd be rocking across the seat to reach the pedals, and that would become uncomfortable and it's inefficient. Notice that
to start off, Peg levels the saddle. Mine was tipped too far back.
So you're ready to hop on,
okay,
and we'll take a look at your leg length, your riding position. What I'm looking for is about a 20-degree bend in your knee. So pedal to the bottom of the pedal stroke.
Right about here?
Right. So you can see you do have about a 20-degree bend in the knee, and you can straighten your knee out if you drop your heel. Right. So if that's in the right position, you're efficient, and when you're riding, you're doing about 60 pedal strokes a minute, about one every second, maybe faster. So if you're riding for, say, an hour, that can add up into the thousands of pedal strokes. Now I'd like you to rotate your right foot forward so that it's parallel to the ground. Great, right there. Yeah, you're level. And I'm going to drop a plumb line from your knee to make sure that your knee is in line over your toes. And I'm going to drop the plumb line from this little dimple in your knee and see that it bisects the pedal axle.
If that line is out of whack, your saddle would need to be brought closer or further away from the handlebars. Since my saddle was at the right spot, we moved on.
And now let's look at your reach to the handlebars. So go ahead and put your hands on the bars. And now your arms are pretty straight here. Do you have any bend in your elbow?
Not that much. Probably use a little bit more.
Right. So that tells me that perhaps your stem is too long. So I'll measure that.
My shoulders hurt sometimes too, so I think that's probably why.
Right. If your arms are straight, all the shock absorption is going to go right up your arms into your back, and that's going to cause some aches and pains.
Yeah, for sure.
So your stem is 14 centimeters long, and I'd recommend you shorten that up to maybe about 11 centimeters.
Peg charges about $40 for fitting. Some mechanics and cycling coaches also do fittings for recreational cyclists. So phone around to bike shops and cycling organizations, or you can try these adjustments yourself at home.
So that's 70